Ravi, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, Joanne.
I know it's really short notice, so I'm really grateful that you freed your time to come to talk to us today. Ravi, I've known you as a bit of a cat in terms of professional lives. You've had so many professional lives before. Is accountancy was it a natural step for you? Is that you've always dreamt of becoming an accountant?
Who dreams about becoming an accountant? Personal circumstances. At the time when when you finish school, you decide what to do. So you look at something which will earn you money and it's affordable. So that maybe can explain like going through to become an accountant. So it was already predestined, in that capacity. But there are other careers that are more adventurous and exciting, pilots or theatre actors. But what I did, despite all this, I knew that accountants were termed boring accountants all the time. When you go through the accounts, you try to read the story that the books tell you, the invoices, the bills. You travel with all the documents, bank statements, because payments have gone through different places in the world. So you just build a story, you run through the story, and then you live through something else, right? So I lived through the stories, and I went through the accounts, and I could understand, every account has a story to tell. And then this is how I read. And then I did the accounts for a motorcycle company or tennis player. So this is where, when I did these accounts, I was saying what was happening, like what had gone through these people's life, where they traveled, what they were doing, and what he won, what he lost. So it's packed with emotion. So this is what I lived through. So this is where, to go back, like you say, that I've lived several lives. So to put it in the context, this is how it happened. So I learned a lot through other people's lives because I've lived through their stories and their accounts.
Right. That's an interesting spin on it, because I've rarely heard an accountant say, my job is exciting, no offense. But so kind of living through the story of what you go through, and now you look after a team of people. Do you pass on that passion to them? How do you make it exciting for your team?
Well, I try to, because I do share my experience with them in a funny way, So I do tell them past stories, what I lived through, how it happened. And maybe you do remember the episode of the bank statement. Like people literally put anything as description. So
we won't say it on this forum, it's censored.
Yeah, we won't say. But we have a lot of things which happen, which are funny, which I do tell these guys, look, you don't look at the paperwork, but per se doing accounts, it's not like, I'm exciting, I'm going to do accounts today, debit and credit, nothing like this. But at times you look at the documents and look at the challenges, you say, okay, what's happening there? What does this tell me about the business? I make them think a bit outside the box, okay, I'm not just doing an accounts for a company. I understand the business, that many families' lives are tied to this type of business. So how they relate to it, from different perspectives, the employer perspective, the employee perspective, customer perspective. So I try to give them all these different variations in doing the accounts, so that they get a wholesome picture of what's happening, and in that perspective they can be better placed to advise the client on different situations. HR problem, you can tell them, look, give them the employee perspective as well. If you're having issues with the MRA, you can give them different type of perspective, like the regulator perspective.
Sure. And is that what you've just described? Would that summarize the type of boss that you are? Do you see yourself as a boss?
No.
Okay. Shall I move on to the next question then? Why not?
Well, a boss like what? Michael Scott? No, not a boss. I look at my staff as team members. We are all together in it. Okay, we have an ultimate boss, but what we have to do, we have a journey to do together. We get paid to do that. So we are team members, everyone has a role. So it's a bit like help everyone do their part. My role is just to make sure that we just do it properly and effectively, so that, everyone is happy, go home, satisfied, job is properly done, client happy. So this is basically it. I'm very on the back of people. I will just tell them what they have to do and let them free.
You don't micromanage?
Yeah, I don't micromanage. I don't think this works nowadays.
So one of the things that really struck me when I came back to Mauritius 8 years ago, so I remember reading the fact about, when you're reading up on the Mauritius IFC, and one of the facts that really struck me, someone said to me that being such a small island, we have the most number of accountants in the world per square kilometer. I don't know whether that's true, but that's what I heard. Do you think there are too many accountants in Mauritius?
Short answer, yes, we do have a lot of accountants. We have a lot of shopping malls as well. For a country like Mauritius, we have a lot of pharmaceutical companies, like pharmacies basically, Many years ago when I started my career, we were told that the market's saturated with accountants. People telling me, why are you doing this? But I always thought that there's a place in the sun for everyone. If you go out, you do your job well, you will get a place for yourself. But over the years, many companies in Mauritius, the situation, regulation has evolved. So we have more sophisticated industry and a lot of compliance. People need accountants to do a lot of things for them. So I believe, and what I've seen is that lots of companies, they do need internal accountants when they grow, because they don't have time to do the compliance, look after payroll, they have to do VAT, tax, advisory, look after the bank reconciliations, a lot of things. So many people have been taken in these types of jobs, in industry and also in practice. And now in practice, we have the global businesses which have taken, a lot of companies have opened in Mauritius in the last 30 years, I would say, since it started way back in the 90s. So they as well, first they didn't have, it was a fax machine. You just need a global business was just a fax machine and an address. When the substance requirements were put forward to them, so they needed an office, accountants to work for them. So this has created jobs for people. So we do have a lot of accountants in the market, but I think that they're not out of job, right? So they all have something to do. Unless if it's by choice, they don't want to work.
Yeah, if anything, I think there are too few people applying for too many jobs at the moment. I think there is scope in the market. It's just that, we'll get to that later, but we can talk about it now. What do you think of the sort of the mass exodus in terms of accounting professionals from Mauritius to countries like Malta, Luxembourg, Ireland?
Yeah, that is something that was not anticipated, a couple of years ago. Who would be fishing in Mauritius territory for that type of talent? Yes. But it happened. So, but I don't know what they have as prospects abroad. Maybe financial incentives in the first place. But I don't know in terms of exposure how much do they get. But it's very attractive for young people to go abroad to have that type of experience. They get more money, but cost of living is much higher as well in those countries. The problem might come later when they come back to Mauritius. If they want to come back and they want to get into the local industry. That might be a problem for them, because those who have stayed local, they have an advantage of knowing the market. So the others will be behind at that time. For now, what's happening is that we do have a shortage in the market. So everyone is fighting. It's not only for accountants, it's for lawyers as well, and other administrators as well. So I've spoken to a few people across industries. So they're all facing the problem, asking for, what are you doing? So we have a few things that we're looking at, giving attractive salary packages, additional perks, pensions, medical schemes, sponsored lunch, flexible working arrangements, under the Workers' Rights Act, the typical work arrangement. So this is coming a bit to life with the new generation, I will term them, and what they want, how they want to work. It's not like my time or yours when we do anything just to get into the job and
exactly.
we do the hours. But now no, they don't. They want their work-life balance, and it's really a new definition that they put forward.
I heard recently that some companies are even looking to recruit young professionals from the African continent, because Mauritius is an attractive jurisdiction for them. Is that something that you would consider? I mean, are the accounting standards similar across the board, would you say?
Well, it's not similar across the board. You have countries which follow IFRS. IFRS is quite open-ended. You can apply a lot of judgment in. They will give you situations and how do you apply judgments. It's very much application of judgment, so it's quite open-ended. But You have French or African countries following OADA, American market as well. They follow a rule base, like it's coded. So they have an accounts code, you have a particular situation, you just have to follow the rules. It's already preset. I've learned personally, I've known both. I've known French accounting I did 20 years ago. So I had to do the conversion, but it was quite swift because you just have to learn the debit credit and how they apply in there. So the rule of thumb for accounting remains the same, but the method is different. And the rule based is more, it's complex, but it's more complete than under IFRS. But something which is feasible, to go back to your question, like getting people from Africa, train them to do it. If I could train from English to French, so I think training from French to English shouldn't be that much of a challenge, especially if it's quite open-ended. So I would definitely consider candidates from other countries. So.
Good to know. One of the things that I think across the board, your company serves clients across the wide range of industries. And if I'm not mistaken, you have a lot of SMEs that you look after as well. Given that our audience consists of a lot of such types of clients, what would you say are the main challenges that they come across when they're finalising, where their accounts are finalised? Is it just a question of debit, credit, I have my management account, I have my P&L, and that's it? Well,
SMEs, they do have a lot of things to do other than that. And it's unfortunate because regulations are made like for everyone. They get into the same basket as large corporates. I understand regulators, when they are making legislations, it's targeted towards others, but they won't bother about making exceptions for such. They do make, but such smaller exceptions. Like if you're an SME, the main problem, you don't only have to do your accounts annually, you have to do your compliance monthly. So that's a lot of work. POIE, CSG, PRGF, VAT. Now at the end of your financial year end, you need to prepare your accounts, do your annual returns, just make sure everything is annual return of employees, annual return for TDS. Some people say we were already doing the monthly return, so why bother doing the annual return? Just add it up. Why ask us to do it? So many people complain because it's a burden on them. And we as accountants, when we have to do that, like happy to do additional tasks for the client, but there's a cost to it. So unfortunately, this cost has to pass on to the SMEs. So that's a bit unfortunate because they have to take that into their finances when they are doing business. So I would think about the government coming forward with exceptions for smaller companies, not to get them into that type of compliance rules and to be smoother with their penalties or late filings, etc. Because these people, they have other things to do to keep operations running on a day-to-day basis. So it's not fair on them to get them to do these things. If you want money, go after the larger corporates.
But they have to do it.
They have to do it because the MRA, they are not like sensible. You know, they will just tell you, you have to comply. You complain, does it work? I did have discussions with the MRA a few times. So you do make suggestions. They say if you want to change things, you have to go to Parliament, not to us. So
they're not policy makers, they just enforce the law.
They will just apply and enforce it. So that's a bit, I think the government, if they're looking really about SMEs, I did speak about the Business Facilitation Act in 2002. It helped like to create business. But then over the years, the burden of compliance, which goes on the same businesses, very easy to create a business online, right, within a matter of days. Yeah. But then for compliance, you have a large, like a full menu card, starters, main course, desserts, and you have to take it all. Yes. So this is what they complain about. So, and I feel for them. And for now, we have to do.
And it comes at a cost as well. Obviously, you've got to hire an internal accountant, or you've got to outsource the work. All of this comes at a cost.
Exactly, it comes at a cost, and for them, it doesn't make sense because for them, it's the operations which brings money. These are not value added that they're paying for. If you're an SME, you would like to pay for something. You pay for 1 rupee, you get 2 rupees, 3 rupees. Now you're adding to the cost burden, so they have to work to cover for these costs. So for them, they complain all the time, and I know. So we have to think about how to really put facilities for these guys, for them to be able to comply, not every month, like they can do it periodically, maybe quarterly, something like that.
And in terms of how to make things easier for them, do you think with the advent of, AI and automating everything, we're still quite a bit far away from that, but do you think we could go into a world where accountants are not required anymore?
I can't say yes.
You'd be out of a job.
Yeah. Well, it's good. AI is good to a certain extent. They can't apply judgment, right? It's good to automate like basic processes. Look at like auto-driving, self-driving cars. So what are the dangers? People are still like contemplating what's going to happen. Now imagine the accounts. You go to the MRA, you say, this entry, we're not agreeable to that. You say, look, it's my AI software which did that. So what do? You have to apply human judgment in interpreting an account to check at least. I will tell you something about, again, because many years, 17, 18 years ago, we had scanners, like you could just preset, this is the date, VAT number, this type of invoice will go to such account, and this is excluding VAT amount, and so on. You just scan it, and the software books every entry in the software.
That was 17 years ago?
17 years ago.
Wow.
So, okay. But it's still not widely used. At that time when they were doing it, like human intervention would just like, you don't have to do the double entry. You just have to set it there. You have several similar invoices. You just put it, you already predefined, it goes. What you have to do, if the quality of the scan is not good, you have just to check for errors. So
sure. So it saves a huge amount of time.
It saves time, but this saves time for like basic operations. But I believe that accountants, over time, they have evolved. Bookkeeping operations can be automated, but to apply judgment, like to give the value added for the accounting services, you will need the input of an accountant. He will interpret the accounts. You will tell the software to interpret it to you. He can give you like whatever he has in memory, right? I think only for chess it's very important, like the automation has worked well because it brings a challenge to another level. Yeah. In accounts, I don't think we're there yet.
Presumably it still requires some element of subjectivity as well.
Of course, like you do an IFRS, you do have the notes, etc. But at the end of the day, when you're doing a board meeting, you have to go and what these figures tell, like turnover is low. The software might tell you turnover is low, so it's not quite obvious. Why is it low? Then you need human intervention just to have a look at, to explain why, because you only can ask questions or observe the operations. The software can't do that. One more example I want to share is that a few days ago I was looking at my LinkedIn profile. So I was getting congratulation messages from people. So what said, Félicitations Ravi in French. So there was a C translation just under it. I just clicked on it and it say, congratulations, delighted. So
your name is now
So now it's delighted. So I think like this is quite a simple way to show you that AI has its own limitations. Like,
if you were trying to motivate someone recommend someone who is exploring a career in accountancy, what 3 qualities would you say that they would need to have to be able to withstand a career in accountancy?
well, they have to be resolute, patient. I think it's not restricted to accountancy. It might be good to apply for other professions as well. What you're looking at is like, well, they have to be resolute, they have to be well-mannered, they have to have an open mind, to think outside of the box, not just be happy with simple, complacent attitude, to always question what's being put in front of them, not to be taken for granted. You know, ask questions.
What do you think of the new Gen Z way of thinking that I need to work efficiently as opposed to working hard? So the number of hours that I put in doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of the output.
Depends. I would draw a parallel with a doctor, for example. If you want to grow quickly, you need to get the experience quickly. So if you want to get the experience quickly, you need to put in the hours quickly. So if you want to work efficiently, right, I work like this. So I've tried to see what I was doing was repetitive, tried to find a way through it, and then circumvent and find a solution.
Yeah, but so it's experience that brings
experience
that.
Yeah, it don't just come to you right away. Maybe you work 1 year, 2 years, and you just take a step back and think about why am I doing it like this? How can I do it better? So how many people take time to just take a step back and think about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis? So the new generation, I think they want to do things quickly because they got focus, you know that, right? They can't look at, they don't even read.
It's just instant gratification. I'm scrolling through my screen, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, everything has to be quick, like short videos. You tell them to watch a 20-minute video. Basically, you won't get that much audience. Right, so they will be wondering. They want quick wins, but I don't believe in that. I think that they will have to put in their hours because experience will talk. You need to get through a lot of things. Now, if you finish early, what do? You have time to learn more, or you want to go and hang around doing something else, which depends. I think with the advent of COVID as well, a lot of people, not only younger generation, a lot of people have been thinking differently about saving for the future. Is there any future? Because you can be taken short, like with an illness. So a lot of people are thinking like that. And I think the younger generation as well into that post-COVID. I've seen like a lot of people thinking about traveling quickly.
Yeah, they have different priorities. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Last question for you, Ravi. I think that for those of the audience who are not accountants, we have a very limited view of what an accountant does. But I think, having known you for a few years now, I know that it's so much more than just doing the accounts, right? You get involved in business rescue, you restructure companies who are perhaps wanting to be more efficient, and then there's the insolvency part as well. Could you just talk to us a little bit about, so a client comes to you and say, look at my accounts, I think we could be so much more efficient. How do you go about it to advise them how to restructure their company?
A client comes, they have to trust you for your abilities. So now, basically when they talk to you, you're an accountant who just does debit and credit. Exactly. So you have to picture them, picture yourself to them, that you do more than that. You understand the labor laws, how the Workers' Rights Act. You understand the insolvency laws. You understand the company law and the MRA regulations, income tax and VAT Act. So you see, like a company will bring some opportunity to the owners, right? You can show them the figures will tell you this and that, and you have to show them the dangers and pitfalls which lie ahead. So some people, they know that they are having certain challenges. So you have to tell them what are the regulatory pitfalls. For example, the MRA have the personal liability of directors if they take a wrong decision.
Which a lot of people are not aware of, actually.
Yeah. I think it's Section 81 of the Income Tax Act and 63 of the VAT Act, if I'm not mistaken. So currently, MRAs, a lot of people are receiving letters about it. When they're doing business, directors or shareholders, they don't really think about these things. So when they restructure and at what time they restructure is very crucial. So they have to be able to look at the alarm bells early on. So you don't have to wait, like, I would say, la mort, la tisane après la mort.
Après la mort, la tisane.
So they don't have to look at this afterwards. They have to be very much early in their business. They have to see what's happening and what corrective actions to take. Because when they come to you too late, so you tell them, but you're already exposed to these dangers, and then you have to manage those risks. And what will happen when they are confronted later on? So they don't have much arguments to explain or to defend themselves. So now, what is happening on the market? We as accountants, we are aware. What are facilities being offered by government or other bodies as well, where they can get low interest rates, how they can grow their business. We tried to do something with Punch. They tried to put up a platform to help these SMEs to grow and to avoid such pitfalls. Because what happens, many businesses, when they grow, a lot of money comes in, they don't have the ability to manage that kind of resources. So they definitely need professional help. But when do they seek out this help? They don't know. So to go back to what you said, when there's business restructuring, they have to come. Well, it comes at a cost, obviously. But it's like a paradox. People are coming to you to cut costs, and then they have to pay you to show them how to cut costs. Yes. And normally it involves a lot of your time to go through the business economics, to understand what they've been doing, and to see what they've been doing wrong and to advise them on that. Mauritius being as it is, like many people will come to you, they say that I know my business better than anyone else. So this is the first step that they have to go
especially
outside
if you're
this.
dealing with a family business as well.
Exactly.
It can
So-
be very emotional.
Yeah, so they have to come to you that believing and trusting that you can help them. If they don't believe that, so it's a lost case beforehand. But once we've crossed that bridge, like they agree that we can help them, so we'll just coach them tell them what's happening, what's wrong, where they can cut costs, what are superfluous. Again, I will share one example with you, one through my many lives. I met someone years ago who was pitching to buy for a petrol station.
Okay.
So he came in his brand new Land Rover. So I spoke to him. I said, okay, this is it. These are the business. This is the business income and so on and so forth. This is how much money you're going to get, how much you're going to invest, and so on. Very much. And he comes to me 2 weeks later. His company is in receivership. He's driving a 1990 Toyota Corolla.
2 weeks later?
2 weeks later. His car's gone, seized by the bank.
How?
Because he's in receivership. So I looked at him and said, well, what's happened in 2 weeks? Then he told me, like, the business was flourishing, but I said, give me your balance sheet. Let me look what happened. I looked at his accounts. But what was happening, he had the cash flow, but the cash flow was, he had to invest it to cover for expenses of service loans. But he got one big cash inflow. First decision he took was to buy a car on lease. And he couldn't afford it. And he had arrears on his loan accounts. So the bank immediately appointed a receiver and he had nothing. So these are real life examples that people don't look at and it just comes into their face like this and then
Or sometimes they just get excited with all this money coming in and not thinking about actually this money should be used for the expenses going forward. They don't do a business model, they don't have a cash flow forecast, all these things.
So when you tell people about cash flow forecast, it's not only for compliance to get bank facilities. You have to be very rigid and look at the finances very carefully so that you don't fall into the trap.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We could speak for hours about how to kind of build a business and make a business successful from an accountant's point of view. How can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about what you can do for them?
Well, I just tell you to share my profile onto your site website. So we are in level 4 Alexander House, Andersen in Mauritius. So it was a nice team of 30 people. So, and we're looking further to grow further.
So you're recruiting as well at the moment?
Of course, permanently. So we are looking for talent and people who can join and do a good job. And opportunities are here. So happy to have them.
Thank you, Ravi.
May I say something?
Yes, of course, please.
As we said, le mot de la fin.
Yes.
For answering a few questions correctly, what do I get? A few dollars?
You get a bottle of wine of your choice. And you are invited to join any of our workouts that we do at Prism Chambers in our new building that we're moving into next year. So I warn you in advance, it's all girls, so you'll be the only gentleman